Alright guys, what is up? I am doing the Mealy pie dough demo and quiche. The Mealy pie dough demo is going to make 5 pie doughs, 1 for quiche, 4 for pies. So you'll make an double crusted apple pie and a berry pie with lattice with those. But we're going to freeze 4 for a couple weeks away so you guys can make pies for Thanksgiving. And then this quiche is for this week, so we'll just refrigerate it for 30 minutes. Okay, so I have my 24 ounces of flour and salt in here in my bowl, and then cheese grater, cold butter. And I have it on the large bowls of the cheese grater. Remember, you want cold butter so it's not melting in your hands. If it starts melting in your hands, roll it around in the butter. That will help it so it doesn't melt in your hands. You want to use really cold butter. That way you're going to get that nice flaky crust, the lamination that we always talk about, which is really good. You don't want to overwork your pie dough. If you do, you're going to have really tough pie dough. If you get down to the end and it's uncomfortable, this is fine. This is a fine piece to toss in there. So shake it out, shake all that butter out. It's 12 ounces of butter, so that's a lot. So you're going to take your hand with a little bit of flour and try to get out any of that extra butter that's in there. And then remember, tap it on the side so that all the ingredients come out of there. Set that off to the side. And then I'm going to fluff it up. I'm just trying to coat the butter in the flour mixture. And then I'm gonna add my water and my egg that I've whipped up here. So I just have it in a pint container. I used a fork to mix it up. You wanna use cold water, as cold as you can possibly get. Even throwing an ice cube in there will help. And then whip up the egg really good so there's no streaks of egg in there. And then we're just gonna use as much as we need. So we might not need this whole container. We might need a little bit more. So we're gonna see what happens there. I actually added a little bit more water because I didn't want to run away from the video. So 2 eggs and 2 ounces of water, and then whipped up pretty good. And I'm gonna add about half of this and then see where I'm at. You don't want your pie dough to be too wet, but you also don't want it to be dry because then it's just gonna be a pain to try to work. So I have it in the bowl and I'm pressing together like this, just to try to get the water worked in there. The water is going to stick to your hands, so remember to pull off any of the dough that's on your hands. And you're just pushing it together to see where you're at. Eventually you can start kneading it. But remember, once it starts to come together, we need to be really, really careful not to overwork it. No one likes a overworked pie crust, so I need some more water. I'm just pressing it together. You guys will need more than the 2 ounces of water in that recipe. I would start with 3 ounces of water, cold water. Some people use different things like vodka because the water will dissolve and you can overwork it less. I just use the water and I try to work it as little as possible, and making sure you're getting all this stuff off your hands and you're working it into the dough. So I am at the point where it's all pretty much together, but there's some stuff on the bottom of the bowl. So I'm just gonna lift it up and kind of press it into itself, but I'm not gonna mix it much more. You should be able to see flakes of butter in here. That's a good sign. Don't try to work it so much to where you can't see any butter. That's overworking. So just got it to this point. You kind of see I have some stragglers at the bottom of my bowl that I'm going to pull off what's on my hand, and I'm going to knead it like 2 or 3 times on the table just to get that last little bit together, and then I'm going to divide it. I'm going to divide it with a scale just so you guys can see what that looks like as far as when you're at home and what the sizes need to look like. But it's going to be 5 equal portions. You don't need to do, you don't have to have a scale. It's just helpful so that you know what the portions that the portions are even. If anybody needs pie tins, I have a ton of pie tins at school. I can leave them up front for you. So we're gonna go 9 ounces. That was exactly 9 ounces. So it looks like this. So once you get your 9 ounces, you're going to form it into a disc. And we're gonna wrap them. That's short. So once you get your 5, they are all going to be wrapped up. 9, it's a little heavy. So I have 5 here. And then I have just this little bit of extra dough. I'm going to just cut that. And remember, you want to cut your dough. And you can cut it with whatever you have at home. You can cut it with a knife. You can cut it with a butter knife. But remember, we don't want to rip it. So I'm going to add those little extra pieces to my dough balls. And then I'm just going to, you can tell that it's a little hot in here, so it's getting kind of sticky. So I'm just going to portion them into discs. I'm gonna wrap them in plastic wrap. I'm gonna wait to wash my hands, but then I'm gonna flatten them as much as I can. I'll show you guys that in the next part of the video. Flatten them as much as I can so they cool down really fast. And then when I get my rolling pin out, I don't have to work with it as much. I don't have to roll it out as much. You don't want to make them like super paper thin, but you can make them, you know, round discs like this. Okay? See you in a minute. Okay. Rolling out. So this set in the refrigerator for 1 hour minimum. You just want it to chill back up so that you don't overwork it while rolling out. You can't see my head. I cut myself off. So I'm going to use a little bit of dusting flour out on the table. So get a little dusting flour down, a little on top of your crust. And then remember, you're going to roll from the inside out. Pick it up inside out. You want to keep picking it up and moving it so you're sure that it's not stuck to the table. It's a bummer when you get your pie crust done, rolled out, and to realize that it's stuck to the table. Eventually you should be able to just do like I'm doing, like little quarters of a turn. And if it catches, it means there's not enough flour, and just put a little flour underneath there. So you want to roll it out so that you have at least a 1-inch border around your pie tin. And I'm going to show you, or pie pan, if you're using glass at home, that's fine too. And remember, if you feel the top of this, you should be able to feel where it's a little bit thicker. So right here is a little bit thicker. So I'm going to roll that out. Okay, so I have pie tins. I'm going to leave a stack of these at the front door so if anybody needs them. So you can see there that there's a good at least inch border all the way around here. Another reason to work with it while it's cold, you can roll it up easier onto your pie, onto your rolling pin. So you're gonna roll it up, not pressing down. You just gently roll it on there and then brush off any excess flour that's on there. And then you're gonna roll it onto the pie tin and you're gonna tuck under all the way around. So tuck under so it's sitting right on top of that lip of the pie tin or pie pan. Tuck, tuck, tuck. And if you have pieces that are just too thick or just too much, you can just cut them off. Make like a little thing on the top, like a little leaf or something if you want to. Just cut out a little leaf and bake it with your quiche. Okay, so now you have the little lip. So now I'm gonna do the border. So I do my left hand, I make like a crab claw. So my index finger, my thumb, like that. And as I'm pushing in with my index finger. So I'm kind of pinching around my index finger like that. So pinch, pinch, all the way around. And you want it to sit up on that lip, but not go over that lip. If it sits over that lip, the pie crust has so much butter in it that the crust will just fall off into the oven, which is a bummer. Okay, so I have that. Make sure it's sitting up against the side so it doesn't slide down. And then I'm gonna put some parchment paper over the top, and I'm gonna do some pie weights. Pie weights at home can just be dry beans. That's actually what a majority of these are right now. So just dry, not cooked beans, dry beans. And that's gonna weigh down the crust. Dry beans are really cheap in the grocery store. And since we're gonna be doing a lot of pies, make sure you save them. So that'll sit down in there, and you want enough to where it totally weighs it all down against the sides and everything. So then I'm gonna put it onto a cookie sheet, and I'm gonna bake it at 375 for 15 minutes. Through the magic of television, I have one here. So 375 for 15 minutes, and then you'll pull out the beans. And if there's any, which there's not on mine, so I'm good because I left it in for just a little bit longer. But if it's kind of shiny on the bottom and you can see that the crust isn't set, then it needs to go back in without the beans. Mine's good to go, but I would say like 15 minutes with the beans in and then 5 without. So get the beans out of there. My quiche filling is, I just sauteed some onions. I caramelized some onions in a little bit of oil. And then once they were caramelized a bit, I added some mushrooms to it. Once the mushrooms had wilted down a little bit, I added a bag of spinach. That's a whole bag of spinach. And that's gonna be the filling for my quiche. So, and you wanna use salt and pepper in this so you have some flavor inside of it. So just enough filling. I'm gonna make 2 quiches here because I have that other one. So just enough filling to coat the bottom. And then the quiche custard is the other recipe that's on there for this week. So that is half and half, eggs, egg yolks, salt, pepper, and nutmeg. If you don't like the nutmeg, you can pull it out. The French really love nutmeg, so we use nutmeg in a lot of different things. But you wanna whisk it up so there's no streaks of egg in there. So then you want this to be on a cookie sheet. And then you're going to pour the quiche custard in. So yours should fill it about 3/4 of the way. So remember, eggs are a leavener. So once they get in the oven, they're gonna puff up. So you want it just so it's about 3/4 of the way filled in your pie tin, and then you're gonna put it back in the oven at 375, and it'll take 15 to 18 minutes in there if it's about that thick with custard. Okay, see you in a minute. Okay guys, so quiche is out of the oven. So test for doneness on quiche, and I actually added a little bit of cheese on top, which you totally can do once it started setting up about 10 minutes in. This took about 17 minutes in the oven. So test for doneness on this guy is a little shaky. When you don't see any egg kind of shaking in the middle, then you're good to go, okay? So it looks like that. It's delicious. You're gonna love it. And you can add meat to this too if you want to. Bye.